Well, I documented two things in The Pox Lover, which are my diaries, because I think both of them represent unexpected things. One extremely intense, and the other one kind of funny. The first one was that I went to cover a St. Patrick's Day demonstration by ACT UP against Cardinal O'Connor in New York, John O'Connor, who was opposing the distribution of condoms and information about basically safer sex and prevention, and a lot of people were dying of AIDS at the time. So ACT UP decided to do an action in the church, which was, very intense on a lot of levels. We had a lot of Catholic members of ACT UP even, and they were really called to kind of think about whether they could participate. So I went into the church with the idea that I would be writing about this. I was writing for Out magazine at the time. I was an editor there. And I guess somehow I didn't see anybody when I was in there from ACT UP. I didn't see people starting to act, and O'Connor began to speak. And he was basically ignoring this incredible demonstration that was going on outside and just instructing people to just totally ignore it. And I felt like, wow, that's emblematic, of his approach. And I just felt like, oh God, I have to stand up. So I stood up, and the people in the booth next to me, they were just like, oh my God, this person's just stood up. And I just began to speak loudly because I had to reach him. He was right up in the church. And I just thought, I had this moment of sinking feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested again. And how am I going to file my story? Like, I am such a not professional journalist enough, but I just felt like I had to do it. And luckily, as I was coming out, I wasn't dragged out of the church in this case, but I was, escorted and then arrested and, spent my time in the clinic. But another of my colleagues was there, and I said, do the story. So we got coverage. And then the second one was, both the sort of hilarity and this part that's not understood for most people. People think of activism as like, oh God, that must be so depressing, and how do you do it, and how do you maintain it? They don't understand that people who are activists, they have egos, some of them, and they're obsessive, but they have energy, and they're creative, and they're passionate. And so I've met amazing people in this movement. So I went to this action to do, and I had a girlfriend at the time, but our relationship was, I guess, I didn't really know, not so great, and she was having an affair. And so I had just learned about this possibility, and I went into the jail, and it turns out I sat down to get arrested kind of quickly, and we got separated, and it turned out I got locked up, and handcuffed to another woman who was just behind me, and it turned out to be, of course, the woman with whom she was having the affair. And we both turned around and saw who the other person was, and it was one of those moments of like, oh my God, like talk about lesbian drama. This is dyke drama writ large. And what could you do? We were literally handcuffed together in a cell. So then, what do? We bond. We bonded. So we talked about it. I said, look, I don't hate you. She's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know, But the funniest part was when my lover started coming along. We hear her from the distance shouting for the affair. And then I answered, oh, she's in here. We're actually together. We're locked up. And to this day, to see her face and the horror, it was hilarious. Plus, then she got really freaked out because we'd been talking. So it was just hilarious. It was, it's the 90s, it's young lesbians. But to show you that, amazingly, lesbians can also quickly, we address each other, we process, we talk, we worked it out. And to this day, we all remain friends. She's my best friend, my ex. This other person is in our lives. We've all continued to be really active. And to this day, we're still on the front lines against Trump.